Welcome into another bonus episode here of Hockey Inside Out. We talk about Sean Monahan, the future that he has with the Montreal-Canadiens. Even now, with his current stats, with him being LTIR, what do the Montreal-Canadiens do moving forward with Sean Monahan?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a big impact losing Sean Monahan. You could see it right away. In the game that he left, the Canadiens went from total control to total collapse, right? And they battled back in that game, which I think is something to keep focus on in that loss to Vancouver. But it's been a rough go without Sean Monahan. I think it's been tough on the top line to not have anyone else to draw checks. You know, Christian Dvorak has been trying hard, but I don't think he has the hockey sense or the passing capability or the shooting capability that Sean Monahan has. And he's just been a great player for the Montreal Canadiens in his short stint. He's the only guy at center who's really had definable chemistry with Juraj Slafkovsky. My hope for the Canadiens for the rest of this year here is that Monahan comes back for a good stretch of games before the deadline, gets to play with Slafkovsky, who is also unfortunately injured right now with the Canadiens' ridiculous run of injuries. And they can develop some confidence for Slafkovsky as a scoring player where he relies on his shot a little bit more. And then they can move Sean Monahan at the deadline, and Slafkovsky can take from that some confidence going forward. But that's an ideal scenario. It may not happen. We may not see Sean Monahan for a stretch longer, but we should remember that while he is on long-term injured reserve right now, it's retroactive when he first went out, and he could come back at any moment. That's just a cap space move more than anything. He's still skating. He's still practicing. So it wouldn't be surprising to see him within a week or so.
Yeah, I mean, the injury is bad news for Monahan personally and for the Canadiens, obviously. There's 6-12-1 after the game against Winnipeg since he was hurt. Only 3 of those games have they scored more than 3 goals. That's in 19 games. 3 times they've scored more than 3 goals. He's had a trickle-down effect on the lineup. Everybody he's played with has been better. He was effective on the power play. The power play hasn't been good all year. It's been dreadful since he was hurt. The reason the Canadiens got Monahan because he was damaged goods because of his hips. He's even more damaged goods right now going into the trade deadline, and you wonder what, if anything, they're going to be able to get for him, depending on when he can come back from this injury. And then unrestricted free agent at the end of the season, do the Canadiens want to bring him back? Or are the injuries just too much that, it's just time to move on and look in another direction? The thing I worry about is that the last 4 or 5 games he played, he was wearing that boot cast, taking it off, playing, and then putting the boot cast back on. He really wanted to play that game in Calgary. I'm sure that factored into it a bit. It was a couple of games after that when they shut him down. But it makes me think back to when Shea Weber played through that broken foot, and it basically put an early end to his career. I mean, it led to other issues that he had to deal with. So you look back, it probably wasn't a good idea for him to play through it. I understand why he wanted to, because he wanted to play that game in Calgary. It was an emotional game for him. But at this point, I mean, he came to Montreal as damaged goods, and he's even more damaged goods now, and that's going to impact other teams' interest in the trade deadline, and it's going to impact the Canadiens' interest moving forward if they want to keep him, even though they've seen how valuable he can be when he's healthy.
Yeah, he's let's face it, he's only played 25 games, and there just seems to be, the injury bug has got a hold of him, and they miss a guy like this. I mean, this guy, when he played, he was a good player, both offensively and defensively, and I think that he was well received and liked by the group. And unfortunately, he just can't seem to stay on the right side of things to allow him to get back into the lineup. And I think that, moving forward here a little bit, the team is going to have to first of all get him healthy, get him back playing, and then just see, from his side what his real intentions are. And I'm quite sure that he'll test the market down the end, or is he going to be healthy enough and play down the stretch where he can be attractive enough that maybe they figure they can't afford to sign him, and then at that point they'll try and find somebody to take him. But too bad for the team, and there's another one that's missing time. But I would think that their conversations will be, can we get you signed? But first and foremost, get you healthy. And this is a big concern with them right now.
Gents, as for Sean Monahan, when you think about his peak powers in the NHL, when he played pretty much the full 82 games, he would score nearly 30 goals a game. And now with the trade deadline a little bit later than normal, early March here, does this give the Habs that runway to kind of buy a little bit more time to hopefully see his value go up by a notch or two?
I think more than anything, teams want to see that he's healthy. And I think one thing that we should consider with the way that the Canadiens have handled him here and how long he's been out is this a major injury that needs to be giving some concern, or are they being extremely cautious because they know how valuable he is as an asset come trade deadline? You know, you look at teams like the Colorado Avalanche, who I don't believe want to go into the playoffs with JT Compher as their second line center. There's already a previous relationship there. The Colorado Avalanche are thrilled with the way that the Arturi Lehkonen trade turned out. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them knocking on the door to see Sean Monahan. And they're one of the teams that seems to be consistently connected to Sean Monahan in trade discussions. So I think the important part is that he plays. He doesn't necessarily need to score at a 30-goal pace. But I will say Sean Monahan, in the 25 games that he's played this season, is still fifth on the Canadiens in scoring. Now, that says more about the Canadiens maybe than Sean Monahan, but he was putting up numbers.
It would be a low-risk trade for the team taking Monahan because the contract's gone at the end of the season. I imagine the Canadiens would probably be willing to eat half of the remainder of the contract this season to make the trade a little bit more appealing to the other team also. The good news for Monahan is that it's not his hips. I mean, that was his concern. He's had surgery, major surgery on both hips. It's his foot. He said the injury was a result of a shot, so you got to figure it's a broken bone in his foot. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but that would seem to make sense. Again, the concern is he played through it like Shea Weber played through a broken foot, and we know how that turned out. But if Monahan can come back and skate, the question is, what would the Canadiens be able to get for him? Like, how much? I don't think a first-round pick is probably in play just because of the injury situation there now. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, hopefully for Sean Monahan, I'd love to see him come back and play well. He's my own personal deal, he's a really likable guy. His teammates love him. He's a fun hockey player to watch. He's just so smart. He does everything right. There's a lot to like about Sean Monahan. Unfortunately for him, the injuries have been a real big problem.
Rick, final word?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Decisions will be made depending on the severity of his injury. With 37 games left, when is he going to come back? Is he going to be able to come back and make things happen, pick up where he left off? So a lot of question marks right now with the situation. But one thing remains the same: get him back healthy, get him to the point where he'd be very attractive to other teams, and then they can entertain some conversations at that point if they want to move the process forward in discussing about his future, either with the Canadiens or with another organization.
It's amazing. Around U.S. Thanksgiving, we were talking about perhaps getting a first-round pick for Sean Monahan. Today, we're not too sure what could be the value for Sean Monahan going towards the final 6 weeks before the deadline. We'll find out if he still will be in Montreal Canadiens, whether it's now or during the summer months. Who knows? But we'll see how this plays out with Sean Monahan. Don't forget to submit your questions and comments here on Hockey Inside Out. We look forward to conversing about that on a future episode. And check out the YouTube page for Hockey Inside Out. And also sign up for the newsletter, montrealgazette.com/newsletters, for all the Hockey Inside Out information as well. And finally, for bonus content and full episodes, head on by Hockey Inside Out for all of that plus more. On behalf of Stu, Rick, and Andrew, we wish you a great week. We'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.